My name is Reese, and I'm 42 years old. If you've ever felt invisible at your own family's table, well, you'll understand where this story begins. Picture an old New England estate. The sort with marble columns and lawns, trimmed to within an inch of their lives. Our family was famous in these parts. The Aldridge name was stitched into the history of every school, every library, every country club. But for me, all that legacy felt like a suit I was forced to wear. Two sizes, too tight, and never quite mine. The last time I saw my mother's smile, she was handing my sibling, Morgan, nearly $7 million at Grandpa Arthur's will reading. $7 million. Straight from the family trust. They didn't even blink. Morgan stood up, beaming, and everyone clapped like it was opening night on Broadway. Then my mother, Evelyn, turned to me and held out a set of battered old car keys. "That's more your speed, Reese," she said, her lipstick smile bright as ice under the crystal chandelier. I should have walked out right then. I know that now. But something in the room, the hush, the way Morgan looked at me with that sly, sideways grin kept me rooted to my seat. Maybe it was pride. Maybe stubbornness. I was dressed in my best work shirt and jeans, feeling every bit the outsider among their tailored suits and designer shoes. The lawyer, Mr. Beck, gave me a look half apology, half warning, as he handed me a thick manila envelope. "Arthur left this for you. Sealed. For your eyes only." My mother's voice cut the air. "Don't bother, Reese. If your grandfather really wanted you to have something special, he'd have told you before he died. Some kids are just extra seats at the table." Her words, sharp as glass, drew a low laugh from a few of the cousins. My sibling Morgan leaned back and said, loud enough for everyone, "Well, looks like the prodigal oil-stained mechanic gets the jalopy after all." That old joke again. For them, I was always the grease under the family's nails, the odd one out. I clenched the keys in my palm, the teeth biting into my skin. My father, Leonard, stared at his shoes. He always did. Nobody said a thing. Not one person in that grand room, with its velvet drapes and gold leaf, could look me in the eye. Right here. Let me ask you. Comment where you're watching from, what time it is, and whether you've ever felt betrayed by family. Hit like so more people hear this story. Now, back to that moment standing in the center of all their laughter. My hands shaking. I could feel something change. The lawyer cleared his throat. "There's one more item," he said. "A letter from Arthur. For Reese alone. For a heartbeat." The room went dead silent. My mother's smile faded, quick as a summer storm. You could hear nothing but the ticking of the old grandfather clock. I wanted to run, but pride held me steady. I tore open the seal. Inside was a letter, handwritten in my grandfather's neat, stubborn script. "Reese," it began, "if you're reading this, they've already had their fun. But this letter isn't for them. It's for you. The car is yours for a reason. There's something inside it, something only someone who really knew me would think to look for. Keep it for 72 hours. No matter what they say. Don't let them near it. I trust only you." As I read, the room seemed to freeze. Even the marble floors felt cold. Morgan laughed. He probably hid a cigar in the glove box. You know how he was with riddles. But nobody was laughing with them now. My mother just glared. Her lips pressed so tight, the color drained from her face. Mr. Beck nodded once. Solem. You'd be wise to follow Arthur's instructions. Reese. For a second, I wondered if this was another one of Grandpa's puzzles. Just another way to remind me I never fit. But there was a weight to the words that wouldn't let me go. Everyone stared. I could feel the burn of humiliation and anger under my skin. I didn't say a word, I just turned and walked out. Envelope in hand. Keys rattling in my fist. Sometimes the smallest door is the one you need to open. And that, right there, was when my real inheritance began. I remember that drive home from the will reading as if it happened yesterday. Even though years have blurred so many other memories, the car keys felt heavy in my pocket. Heavier than their actual weight. I left behind the grand estate. The marble floors and velvet curtains. The room where I had always been the odd note in the family symphony. The roads wound through old oaks and autumn leaves. And with every mile, pieces of the past came flooding back, most of them sharp as tacks. My family, the Aldridges, had always been the talk of our New England town. Old money, old grudges, and old habits. We lived in a mansion people whispered about during garden tours and charity auctions. From the outside, we were the picture of privilege. My mother, Evelyn, hosting charity galas in pearls and silk. My father, Leonard, hidden behind newspapers and closed doors. And my sibling, Morgan, perfect in every way that mattered to the Aldridge legacy. Me, I was always just Reese. From the start, I was the family's wild card, the one who'd rather be in the garage than at a piano lesson. Happier tinkering with a carburetor than posing for the holiday photo. My earliest memories are of Grandpa Arthur's hands, knuckles stained with oil, teaching me how to change a tire and how to keep my chin up when the world turned mean. He used to wink and say, "You build your own luck. Kiddo, never let them tell you your worth." My mother never said it aloud, but I saw it in her eyes. Morgan was the show pony. The child who looked good in family newsletters. The one who brought home blue ribbons and glowing report cards. My victories: fixing the old lawnmower, helping the neighbor's son with his science project, building a radio out of junkyard parts were, at best, tolerated, at worst ignored. "That's nice, dear," Evelyn would say, already turning to discuss Morgan's latest accomplishment. The favoritism wasn't just about praise. It was woven into every detail of daily life. Morgan got the private school and ski trips. I got public school and leftover sandwiches. At birthdays, my presents were practical socks, work gloves, a used wrench set. Morgan's were extravagant: a horse one year, and all expenses paid summer at a Paris Art Institute the next. When I brought home a trophy from the regional science fair, my parents barely glanced at it. "Don't put it on the mantle," Mom said. "There's no space." Even the family photo albums told the story. In every staged holiday picture, I was at the edge, sometimes cropped out entirely. One Christmas, I overheard Evelyn tell her sister, "At least Morgan will give us something to be proud of." The words lodged deep in my chest, where even Grandpa Arthur's warmth couldn't quite reach. Yet somehow, I survived. I learned early that blending in was safer. The less I asked for, the less I risked being disappointed. Grandpa Arthur was my only safe harbor. On weekends, I'd sneak out to the garage, the air thick with sawdust and the sharp scent of motor oil. We built things: birdhouses, Go-karts. Once, even a working windmill for the county fair. He taught me patience, grit, and the value of getting your hands dirty. He never once compared me to Morgan. You're your own kind of special. Reese. He'd say, don't let this house tell you otherwise. Still, the resentments built up. Layer by layer. Morgan grew into the role of heir apparent, smiling. Charming. Destined for greatness by family standards. I became the shadow, unremarkable. Quiet. Always on the periphery. When Morgan got a car at 16, a new BMW. Gleaming in the driveway, I inherited Grandpa's old bicycle and a stern lecture about responsibility. It wasn't just at home. At school. The Aldridge name was both a blessing and a curse. Teachers expected me to be as brilliant as Morgan. Classmates resented the name but ignored the kid behind it. More than once. I caught whispers. Why is Reese so weird, or saw invitations snatched back once. It was clear I wasn't interested in parties or prom. The only constant was Grandpa. When he got sick, it was me sitting by his bed every weekend, reading old adventure novels aloud, changing his oxygen tank, holding his hand through the long, sleepless nights. Morgan sent flowers from college. Evelyn called for updates but rarely visited. Grandpa would squeeze my hand and whisper stories of his youth, how he built his first business from nothing, how he learned to spot real friends in a crowd of sycophants. Remember, Reese. He'd say, real value isn't always what you see on the surface. Some treasures you have to dig for. By the time he passed, I was no longer surprised that the family barely grieved. His funeral was more of a networking event for them, a sea of expensive suits and insincere condolences. I stood alone by his grave, clutching the only gift he'd left me in life, the courage to keep going. Even when the world wanted to erase me. Looking back, I see the patterns clear as day. The subtle, daily humiliations. The silent agreements that some children are worth more than others. It wasn't just about inheritance, it was about belonging. And the cost of being different in a family obsessed with their own legend. But even as a kid, I held on to hope. Maybe. Just maybe. Grandpa saw something in me the others never could. Something worth passing down, not in dollars, but in wisdom. And, as I'd soon discover, in secrets. You know, I never guessed just how deep those secrets would go or how much power a single letter could hold. If you think you've heard family betrayal, trust me. Mine was only just getting started. That night, after the will reading, sleep wouldn't come. I lay in my cramped apartment, the battered car keys on the nightstand, staring at the ceiling as if answers might float down from the plaster cracks. Every word from that day replayed in my mind: Morgan's smirk, Evelyn's sharp voice, the polite applause that echoed like thunder in my ears. For 42 years, I learned to expect very little from the Aldridges. But even I hadn't been prepared for the cold theater of that will reading. In the morning, my phone pinged, first a text from Morgan. Hope you're enjoying the family heirloom. Reese, if you need a tow, let me know. No shame in asking the real Aldridge for help. Then another. From Evelyn, I trust you. Understand this is final. Your grandfather wanted it this way. Please respect the family and don't make a scene. Morgan and I will handle the estate from here on out. I ignored them both. But the sting lingered. The lawyer's words, keep the car for 72 hours. No matter what they offer, echoed in my head. Grandpa Arthur had never wasted words. If he'd left me this car, It was for a reason. Around noon, the phone rang again. This time, it was Morgan. Voice smooth as silk. Hey, Reese. Look. I know yesterday was awkward. But let's be practical. That old Chrysler's a rust bucket. Tell you what, I'll give you $50,000 for it. Sight unseen. Just sign the title over and you can walk away with more than you ever expected. Win-win. Right. I nearly laughed out loud. Morgan never offered anything unless they wanted something more. No thanks, I said. I think I'll hang on to it. Morgan's tone shifted harder now. You're making a mistake. Don't let a grudge ruin what's left of this family. Just think about it. Later, Evelyn left a voicemail. Brittle as ever. Your grandfather's sentimental streak doesn't override the needs of the family. Reese. Return the car. It's not safe in your hands or your neighborhood. The implication was clear. I wasn't to be trusted with anything of value. It wasn't the first time I'd heard it. But the real blow came that evening. When my cousin Alex sent me a viral social media post, a photo of the family at the will reading. Morgan in the center. Glass raised. My face barely visible in the shadows. The caption read, "Some people inherit millions. Others get what they deserve." Hundreds of likes. Dozens of comments, most laughing emojis. A few digs about family charity cases. The humiliation burned. For a moment, I considered deleting my account. Erasing myself from their world entirely. But then I remembered Grandpa's words. Real value isn't always what you see on the surface. Some treasures you have to dig for. That night, unable to sleep, I drove out to the old garage where I kept my tools. The Chrysler waited. Dusty but solid. Its paint faded and windshield cracked. I slid behind the wheel. The familiar smell of old leather and oil wrapping around me like a memory. In the glove box, I found only an ancient map of the town and a faded photo of me and Grandpa, grinning beside the car on my 16th birthday. I started the engine. It coughed, then rumbled to life stubborn. Like me, I drove aimlessly through the night, thinking of all the years I'd spent trying to fit into a family that measured love in dollars and attention in status updates. At a deserted overlook, I stopped and read Grandpa's letter again. Searching for clues. Keep it for 72 hours. Don't let them near it. I trust only you. Back home, the phone rang once more. This time, it was the lawyer. Mr. Beck. Reese. I know you've had a rough go. Arthur left detailed instructions. If anyone pressures you to sell or give up the car, call me. And be careful. There's more at stake than you know. His words sent a chill through me. What could possibly be inside that car worth so much trouble? The next morning, a knock at my door startled me awake. Through the peephole, I saw Morgan and Evelyn dressed in black. Faces stiff. I opened the door just a crack. Evelyn didn't bother with pleasantries. Reese, you need to come to your senses. That car isn't safe. Morgan is willing to increase their offer. $75,000. Cash. We'll have the paperwork drawn up right now. Morgan folded their arms. Gaze. I see. You're only dragging this out for attention. Be reasonable. The family is watching. For a moment, I almost caved. Years of pressure. Of being told I was wrong. Unwanted. Out of place, it all pressed down at once. But then I saw their eyes. Saw the calculation. The entitlement. The belief that they could buy me off. Erase me from the story. No, I said, voice shaking but steady. Grandpa trusted me. That car stays with me. No matter what you offer. Evelyn's mask slipped. You're making a fool of yourself. Reese. Don't expect sympathy when this blows up in your face. Morgan snorted, turning away. You're just an extra seat at the table, always were. As they left, I watched them go. Something inside me hardening. They thought they'd broken me with their money. Their public shaming. Their fake concern. But they didn't know what I knew, that the only real mistake the Aldridge family ever made was underestimating me. And what they didn't know was the real inheritance wasn't the money or the car. It was something else entirely. Something hidden. Waiting to be found. By the next morning, the panic and anger inside me had crystallized into something sharper. A sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I'd spent my life trying to blend in. Apologizing for my existence. Making myself small so the Aldridges could shine. But now, with Grandpa's words echoing in my ears and the family circling like vultures, I realized it was finally time to stand up for myself. I wouldn't let them erase me, not this time. The first step was to get the Chrysler somewhere safe. The old family garage was too obvious. And my apartment building's lot was no better. I called my childhood friend Sam, who'd grown from a mischievous neighbor into one of the town's best attorneys. We hadn't talked in months' life, and embarrassment had seen to that, but when Sam picked up and heard my voice, there was nothing but warmth. Reese, you're up early. Or, have you not slept? I hesitated. A bit of both. Listen, I need a favor. A big one. Sam didn't hesitate. Whatever you need. Just say the word. I told Sam everything, the humiliating while reading. The car. Grandpa's mysterious letter. Morgan's offers. And the strange insistence on keeping the Chrysler for exactly 72 hours. Sam listened. No interruptions. Just the occasional low hum of concern. That old man was no fool. Sam said finally, if he went through all this trouble, there's a reason. Bring the car to my office garage. It's got security cameras and nobody gets in without my say-so. I'll draw up paperwork in case anyone tries to lay claim. And Reese, don't sign anything. Not even a parking receipt. It was good advice. Within the hour, I was driving the Chrysler through the sleepy Sunday streets. Heart pounding every time I checked the rearview mirror. Maybe it was paranoia. But I half expected Morgan's new luxury SUV to appear, tailing me with a smug smile behind the wheel. But the drive was uneventful, just the gentle rattle of the old engine and the nagging feeling that the past was finally catching up. Sam was waiting in the garage. Coffee in one hand. iPad in the other. She walked a slow circle around the car, whistling. She's in better shape than I expected, she said. But it's what's inside that counts. Right. Together. We began the careful search. The trunk was empty except for a faded blanket and a half-used oil can. The glove compartment held nothing but that old map and Grandpa's favorite pipe. Sam crawled under the chassis, flashlight in hand, while I sifted through every crevice, every seat pocket. Then, behind the rear seat panel, Sam's fingers caught on something, a false wall. Cleverly installed. Almost invisible, unless you knew where to look. She pried it open with a flathead screwdriver. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth and secured with duct tape, was a battered metal box. We exchanged a long, wordless look. With shaking hands, I opened the box. Inside, a thick stack of legal documents, trust deeds, business contracts, some signed and notarized, others annotated in Grandpa's familiar hand. A USB drive, labeled simply Legacy. A faded leather-bound notebook, full of accounts and cryptic notes. Sam's eyebrows shot up. These aren't just sentimental, Reese. These are serious. Some of these papers are property deeds to downtown buildings, signed over decades ago. Look here, this one's not even in the family trust. It's in your name. And this is a copy of the trust's operating agreement. There are notes here about illegal asset transfers, shell companies, maybe even fraud. I stared at her. Are you telling me Grandpa hid proof the family was cheating, maybe even the law? Sam's eyes were wide. I'm saying this isn't just about your inheritance. This could bring down the entire Aldridge Trust. If this gets out, Morgan, Evelyn, every cousin who laughed at you, they're exposed. Maybe even liable for prosecution. Depending on what's in here. It felt surreal. All these years, I'd been the invisible one, the afterthought. Now, in my hands, I held the keys to the kingdom, proof that the Aldridge legacy was built on quicksand, and that Grandpa had trusted me to set things right. But there was something more. In the notebook's final pages was a handwritten letter, dated just months before Grandpa's death. Reese, if you're reading this, it means you're stronger than they ever realized. You've always had the heart to do what's right, even when it cost you. The Aldridge fortune is bigger than anyone knows, but so are the lies. Protect yourself. Take this evidence to someone you trust. And don't let them bully you into silence. Remember, you build your own luck. Arthur. I blinked back, tears, anger, gratitude, fear, all tangled up. Sam looked at me, her voice gentle. What do you want to do? Reese. He took a shaky breath. I want to finish what Grandpa started. I want justice for me. And for every kid who's ever been told they don't belong. And I want the family to see that you can't bury the truth forever. Not even in an Aldridge mansion. Sam grinned, fierce and proud. Then let's make them sorry they ever underestimated you. I'll start copying these documents. And get in touch with a financial crime expert I trust from law school. If there's criminal activity, we'll blow it open. But we'll do it right legally. Clean. No room for them to wiggle out. Outside, my phone buzzed again. Morgan. Probably disparity. But I let it ring. This was bigger than their games. Bigger than even the inheritance. And right then, for the first time in my life, I felt powerful. Not because of what I might inherit, but because of what I'd found my own voice. And a way to finally, truly matter. The days that followed felt like living inside someone else's life. Sam and I barely slept as we sorted through Grandpa's secret files. Some of the deeds were decades old. Property scattered from Boston's old brick blocks to luxury condos near the river. All signed directly to me. The notebook explained it all, quiet transactions made to protect the family's wealth from their own greed. But there was more evidence of illegal transfers. Offshore accounts, forged signatures, and a trail that pointed right to Morgan and Evelyn. The Aldridge Trust, so worshipped by my family. I was built on secrets, and now I had the proof. Word spread quickly that the prodigal was making waves. On the third day, my phone exploded with messages. Some cousins offered apologies thin as paper. suddenly recalling fond childhood memories. A few tried veiled threats. For the good of the family. Maybe keep this quiet. But Morgan wasn't subtle. Their email arrived just before sunrise. A blend of arrogance and panic. You think you're clever. Reese. That junk isn't worth anything. If you try to make trouble, you'll regret it. Remember. Nobody takes your side. Not even the law. It was signed simply. The real Aldridge. Sam rolled her eyes when I read it out loud. Your sibling missed their calling as a cartoon villain. But don't worry, I've got your back. By then, we had everything ready. Sam's friend, a forensic accountant named Dennis, confirmed the fraud. This isn't just family drama, he said. This is criminal. If you go public, you'll have law enforcement on your side and the press will eat it up. The next morning, Morgan and Evelyn called an emergency family meeting at the estate. I drove there in Grandpa's Chrysler, Sam by my side, and walked into the mansion as if I belonged for the first time in my life. The room was packed. Even distant relatives who'd ignored me for years turned up. No doubt smelling blood in the water. Morgan started, their voice dripping with false calm. We're here today to address certain misunderstandings. Reese has, let's call it a grievance. We're prepared to be generous. Within reason. For the sake of family unity. The words hung in the air. Every syllable designed to humiliate me. To make me look greedy and unstable. I let them finish. Then nodded to Sam. She handed copies of the deeds, trust documents, and Dennis's analysis to everyone in the room. The silence was immediate. Suffocating. I looked at my mother, who had always dismissed me with a glance. These papers show that the Aldridge Trust isn't just mismanaged. It's illegal. Grandpa hid assets because he knew what you'd do: embezzle, cheat, cut anyone out who didn't fit your vision. Morgan snatched the documents, flipping through them, face turning red. This is absurd. No court will believe you. You're nothing. Just a bitter, invisible mistake. Sam didn't flinch. It's all legal, notarized, and verified. If you try to challenge this, every crime you've hidden comes to light. This isn't just about money, Morgan. It's about the law. Evelyn tried to intervene, her composure breaking. You'd ruin the family's name over scraps. You're pathetic. Reese. You never could see the big picture. I looked her in the eye, feeling the years of shame and doubt finally fall away. No. I just learned to see through your games. In that moment, something wild happened. My phone, which I'd left recording on the table, buzzed with hundreds of live viewers. I'd posted a cryptic invitation on social media before coming. Watch the truth about the Aldridge legacy live at noon. The comment feed exploded as the family realized everything was streaming. Morgan lunged for the phone. Voice disparate. You can't do this. I forbid it. Turn it off now. I stepped back, letting them flail. Their masks shattered. In a single afternoon, the mighty Aldridge heirs were reduced to squabbling strangers, fighting over the ashes of their reputation. News spread fast. By sunset, local reporters were calling, and a trending hashtag carried our story farther than any family secret ever had. But as the dust settled, I felt something different: freedom. I was no longer the invisible kid in the back row. I was the one who'd finally broken the cycle, who'd chosen truth over tradition. Just when I thought it was over, as I was leaving the estate for the last time, I found one last envelope under the Chrysler's passenger seat. Inside, a short note in Grandpa's handwriting. Proud of you, Reese. Some treasures you have to dig for. Don't stop now. And in that moment, I realized the greatest inheritance wasn't property or money. It was the courage to claim my own story. After that final confrontation, my world shifted in ways I never expected. The mansion that had once felt like a fortress of shame and secrets now seemed strangely hollow, echoing with the memories of every slight and every moment I'd wished myself invisible. But walking out of those marble doors for the last time, I didn't feel small anymore. I felt free. The media storm that followed was relentless. Headlines about the Aldridge scandal spread across news sites. And for a few wild days, reporters staked out the estate and my apartment. Some distant relatives tried to spin their own versions, blaming Grandpa, blaming me, blaming each other. But the evidence was airtight, and the authorities moved quickly. Morgan and Evelyn faced investigations for fraud and tax evasion. The once glorious Aldridge Trust was put under government review, its assets frozen until all the hidden dealings were sorted out. At first, I worried that the entire town would turn against me. But instead, I found support from unexpected places: old friends, neighbors, even strangers who recognized me at the diner and said, "Good for you, Reese." About time, someone stood up to them. For the first time in my life, people saw me for who I was, not just a shadow in the Aldridge legend. Sam helped me set up meetings with charitable foundations and financial advisors. The properties Grandpa left me turned out to be worth more than I'd ever imagined. I decided to do what he would have wanted: restore the old buildings. I create community centers and scholarships, fund programs for kids who felt as invisible as I once did. It wasn't about the money. Not really. It was about leaving something good behind. A kind of justice the courts couldn't provide. I kept Grandpa's Chrysler, too. Every time I drove it through town, people waved or stopped to ask about the story. Sometimes, I'd take a detour and park by the old overlook, watching the city lights flicker at dusk, thinking about how far I'd come and how much further there was to go. Morgan tried to sue. Of course, the court dismissed every claim. Their emails grew more desperate, and then suddenly stopped. As for Evelyn, she never called again. In their absence, I felt only relief, not triumph, not gloating. Just a quiet, clean emptiness where the pain used to be. I realized then that sometimes the best revenge is to simply live well and walk away. The hardest lesson was learning to forgive not just them, but myself. For years, I'd carried the weight of being the mistake, the extra seat at the table. But as I watched the community centers fill with kids and families, as I saw a new kind of legacy grow from Grandpa's secret gift, I finally understood. My value was never measured in money, in family approval, or even in a name. It was in the choices I made when nobody was watching: the choice to stand tall, to speak up, to turn pain into purpose. One evening, months after the storm had passed, I found myself sitting on the porch of a restored house, one that now offered after-school programs for local teens. The air was crisp, the world quiet. I pulled out that last note Grandpa had left, reading it one more time. Proud of you, Reese. Some treasures you have to dig for. Don't stop now. I smiled, thinking of all the times I doubted myself, all the moments I'd wished for a different life. If I could speak to that younger version of me, the scared kid hiding at the edge of every photo, I'd tell them, you were never invisible. You were just waiting for your moment. So here's what I learned. And what I hope you remember: family can hurt you in ways strangers never could. But family is also what you choose to build for yourself through courage, kindness, and truth. Sometimes, the greatest inheritance isn't money or property. It's the freedom to write your own ending. If you've ever witnessed or lived through an injustice like this, share your story in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more shocking family stories, some secrets families will do anything to keep hidden. And if you're ever handed a set of old car keys when the world expects you to disappear, don't be afraid to dig deeper. You never know what you'll find or what you'll become.